My wife's sister brought her new boyfriend to our family dinner, and within minutes, he was mocking my job, my house, my car. Everyone laughed. My own wife laughed. What they didn't know was that I recognized him immediately from the fraud case I'd been building for the past 6 months. The arrogant millionaire sitting at my table wasn't just insulting me. He was about to become the centerpiece of the largest financial crime investigation in Texas history. And in exactly 72 hours, I was going to serve him something far more satisfying than dessert. Before I tell you what happened when I finally dropped the truth bomb that wiped the smirk off his face, comment below where you're watching from and what time is it there. Because what unfolded over the next 3 days changed my family forever. Friday evening, October 13th, 2023. My wife Sarah was in the kitchen obsessing over the dinner menu, while I arranged chairs around our dining table in our modest 3-bedroom home in Austin, Texas. Nothing fancy. We bought this house 10 years ago on my government salary. 1,800 square feet in a decent neighborhood. It was home. "Marcus, did you polish the silverware?" Sarah called out, her voice tight with stress. "It's just family dinner, babe," I replied, setting down water glasses. "Your sister's seen our regular forks before, but she's bringing Devin." Sarah appeared in the doorway, flower on her apron. Her new boyfriend, the one with the tech startup. I'd heard about Devin Mitchell for 3 weeks straight. How he'd sold his first company at 28. How he drove a Maserati. How he'd taken Jessica to Napa Valley on their second date. My sister-in-law had always been status conscious, but this was next level. "I'm sure he's a regular guy," I said, though something in my gut said otherwise. The doorbell rang at 6 o'clock sharp. I opened it to find Jessica in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, and beside her stood Devin Mitchell. The moment I saw his face, my blood ran cold. Not because he was intimidating, because I knew exactly who he was. 6 months ago, a file had landed on my desk at the Texas Attorney General's office, Consumer Protection Division. My supervisor had dumped a stack of complaints about a wealth management company called Pinnacle Investment Group. Elderly victims, suspicious returns, vanishing funds. The owner's name on every document, Devin Mitchell. I'd been investigating him for 187 days. I had his bank records, his client lists, his falsified statements. I'd interviewed 14 victims who'd lost their life savings. And now he was standing in my doorway, hand extended, flashing a smile that had probably charmed his way into millions of dollars. "You must be Marcus," he said, his grip firm and cold. "Jessica's told me so much about you." I shook his hand, my investigator's brain already cataloging details. Rolex Submariner, custom-tailored Tom Ford suit, shoes that cost more than my car payment. And those eyes, calculating eyes that were already assessing my worth. "Welcome," I managed, stepping aside. Sarah rushed over, all nervous energy. "Devin, Jessica, come in, come in." The next 15 minutes were a masterclass in passive-aggressive superiority. Devin walked through our home like an appraiser at an estate sale, making small comments that sounded like compliments but landed like insults. "Cozy place," he said, glancing at our living room. "I love these starter homes. So much character. Starter home. We'd lived here a decade. And you work for the state, right, Marcus?" He settled into our dining chair like he was doing us a favor by sitting. "Public service. That's so admirable." Really, the way he said admirable made it sound like pathetic. My father-in-law Tom arrived next, followed by Sarah's mother Linda and her brother Chris. The table filled with family, and Devin commanded attention effortlessly, telling stories about private jets and exclusive clubs. "So Marcus," Devin said, cutting into the pot roast Sarah had spent hours preparing. "Jessica mentioned you're some kind of government worker. What exactly do you do?" "I work in consumer protection," I replied evenly. "Attorney General's office." "Oh, like a lawyer?" "I am a lawyer. I investigate financial fraud." Something flickered in Devin's eyes, just for a second. Then the smile returned. "Financial fraud. That's fascinating." He leaned back, swirling his wine. "Must be tough living on a government salary, though. What do they pay you, like 60K? "Devin," Jessica said, touching his arm. But she was smiling. "I'm just curious," he continued. I mean, I couldn't imagine raising a family on public sector wages. How do you guys manage? Sarah's face flushed. We manage just fine. Sure, sure. Devin gestured at our dining room. I just mean, there's managing and then there's living. Don't you ever want more? Some of us measure wealth differently, I said quietly. Right, right. Noble poverty. He laughed, and Tom chuckled along. Look, no judgment. Somebody's got to work those government jobs. Can't all be entrepreneurs. Chris, Sarah's younger brother, jumped in. Devin's company just got valued at $50 million. $50 million, Marcus. Can you imagine? I could imagine. I could also imagine the 23 elderly victims whose retirement accounts have been drained to create that valuation. Impressive, I said. You should let me give you some investment advice, Devin offered, his tone dripping with condescension. Get you out of that salary trap. I could probably 10x your money in a year. I'm fine with my current investments. Government pension? He laughed again. Marcus, man, you're thinking too small. That's the problem with public sector guys. No vision. No risk tolerance. Sarah laughed. Actually laughed. My wife laughed at her sister's boyfriend, insulting me at our own dinner table. The meal continued with Devin dominating every conversation, name-dropping celebrities, describing his portfolio properties, and making increasingly pointed comments about my humble lifestyle. This your car out front? He asked during dessert, gesturing toward the window. The Camry, 2015 Camry. Runs great. Runs great. He repeated it like I'd said something hilarious. Marcus, I spent more on my watch than you did on that car. No offense. None taken. I just think, life's short. Why not drive something with some personality? My Maserati. Now that's a machine. Tom nodded enthusiastically. He let me sit in it. Beautiful car. Maybe someday, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Someday. Devin smiled. That's that government worker mentality right there. Always someday. Never today. Jessica was beaming at him like he'd just delivered a TED Talk instead of spending 2 hours insulting her sister's husband. As they prepared to leave around 9 o'clock, Devin pulled me aside in the hallway. Hey, no hard feelings about the ribbing tonight, he said, his voice low and patronizing. You seem like a good guy. Tell you what, bring Sarah by my office next week. I'll show you how real money is made. Maybe get you into one of my investment funds. Friends and family rate. That's generous, I replied. That's just the kind of guy I am. He clapped me on the shoulder. I take care of people. I'll bet you do, I thought. After they left, Sarah was buzzing with excitement as we cleaned up. He's so successful, she gushed, scraping plates. And so generous, offering to help with investments. Yeah, real generous. Don't be like that, Marcus. I know he came on a little strong, but he's just confident. That's how successful people are. Successful. She stopped, turned to face me. You're upset. I just spent 2 hours being insulted in my own home. He was joking around. God, Marcus, you're so sensitive. This is why we can't get ahead. You have no ambition. The words hit like a slap. We've been married 12 years. I'd worked 60-hour weeks, building a career in public service. We had a good life. Not flashy, but good. Stable. Honest. I have plenty of ambition, I said quietly. I'm just not trying to impress people who measure worth in car prices. Whatever. She walked away, and I heard our bedroom door close a little too hard. I stood in our kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes, and pulled out my phone. I had Devin Mitchell's entire financial criminal enterprise documented in encrypted files on my work laptop. Monday morning, I was presenting the case to a grand jury. By Tuesday afternoon, federal agents would be executing search warrants on every property Devin owned. The arrogant prick sitting at my table tonight, mocking my Camry and my salary, had exactly 72 hours of freedom left. I just had to decide whether to let my family keep worshiping him until the hammer fell, or give them a preview of coming attractions. I chose patience. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is watching someone dig their own grave. And Devin Mitchell had brought a backhoe. Saturday morning, I woke to find Sarah already gone. A note on the kitchen counter. Shopping with Jessica. Back this afternoon. Perfect. I had work to do. I drove to my office in downtown Austin, the same modest government building I've been entering for 8 years. My cubicle wasn't fancy. No corner office, no city view. Just a desk, 2 monitors, and filing cabinets full of cases that most people never heard about. But I love this work. Every case I closed was someone's grandmother getting justice, someone's father recovering stolen savings. The victims didn't make headlines. Neither did I, and I was fine with that. I pulled up the Devin Mitchell file. 847 pages of evidence. It had started simply enough. Last April, an 81-year-old woman named Dorothy Chun had called our hotline. She'd invested her late husband's life insurance money, $340,000, with Pinnacle Investment Group after attending one of their free dinner seminars. The man was so nice, she told me during our interview, her voice shaking. He said I could make 15% returns, guaranteed. Safe as a bank, he said. Better than a bank. 15% guaranteed returns. The first red flag. I'd requested her account statements. The documents showed impressive gains for the first 6 months. Her $340,000 had grown to $385,000. Then $420,000. She was thrilled. Then she tried to withdraw $50,000 for medical bills. Suddenly, there were fees, processing delays, excuses. Her statements kept showing gains, but the money never appeared in her bank account. When she finally got suspicious and demanded a full withdrawal, Pinnacle told her the account had suffered market losses and was now worth only $89,000. $251,000 vanished. That's when she called us. I started digging. 15 more complaints came in over the next 2 months. All elderly investors, all showing the same pattern. Big gains on paper, impossible withdrawals, sudden market losses. Classic Ponzi scheme. I'd subpoenaed Pinnacle's bank records. The money wasn't being invested. It was being cycled. Early investors received payouts funded by new investor deposits. Meanwhile, Devin Mitchell was siphoning millions into personal accounts. The Maserati, the Rolex, the portfolio properties, all purchased with stolen retirement funds. I had bank transfers showing $4.3 million moved from Pinnacle's client trust account to Devin's personal accounts over 18 months. I had falsified investment statements. I had testimony from a former employee who described how Devin instructed him to create fake portfolio reports. This wasn't ambition. This wasn't success. This was theft dressed up in a tailored suit. My phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. Devin wants to take us all to dinner tomorrow night. His treat. Nice restaurant. Say yes. Another opportunity for Devin to perform his success theater while my family applauded. I texted back, sure. Then I called my supervisor, Ellen Rodriguez. She'd been a prosecutor for 20 years before joining the AG's office, and she had a reputation for taking down white-collar criminals who thought they were untouchable. Marcus, it's Saturday, she answered. This better be good. It's the Mitchell case. I need to move up the timeline. We're presenting to the grand jury Monday. What's wrong? I explained the dinner, the connection to my sister-in-law, the fact that Devin was now actively trying to recruit family members into his scam. Ellen was quiet for a moment. This could complicate things. You know his defense will claim bias if they find out he's connected to your family. He's not connected. He's dating my wife's sister. We just met last night. Still, we need to document everything. Write up a memo explaining the relationship and the timing of your investigation. Make it clear this case started 6 months before you knew about the personal connection. Already done. It's in the file. That's why you're good at this job, Marcus. I could hear her smiling. All right, we proceed as planned. Monday, grand jury. Tuesday, arrest warrants and search warrants. Let's take this guy down clean. After hanging up, I spent the next 3 hours reviewing every document one final time. In major fraud cases, you get one shot. The defense will attack every procedural detail, every evidence chain, every timeline discrepancy. I'd learned this from my mentor, Jim Patterson, who'd retired 2 years ago. The bad guys have expensive lawyers, he'd told me. You have the truth. Make sure the truth is documented so well that no lawyer can spin it. This case was airtight. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Marcus Reeves. Mr. Reeves, this is Dorothy Chun. I'm sorry to bother you on the weekend. Mrs. Chun, no bother at all. Is everything okay? I wanted to thank you. My daughter told me you're really fighting for us. I know you probably work on lots of cases, but this money, it was everything my husband left me. He worked so hard, 40 years as a machinist. When that man took it, I felt so stupid. My throat tightened. Mrs. Chun, you're not stupid. These people are professionals. They're designed to be convincing. Will I get my money back? The question I hated most. We're going to do everything we can. The criminal case is moving forward. If we can recover assets, yes. But I want to be honest, in these cases, sometimes the money's already spent. I understand. She was crying softly. I just want him to not do this to anyone else. He won't. I promise you that. After we hung up, I sat staring at my monitors. Dorothy Chun had worked as a school cafeteria worker for 30 years. Her husband had been a machinist. Together, they'd saved and sacrificed to build that $340,000. Devin Mitchell had stolen it to buy a watch. Sunday evening. The restaurant was exactly what I expected. Expensive, trendy, the kind of place where the menu doesn't list prices and the portions could fit in a thimble. Devin held court at the head of the table, ordering bottles of wine that cost more than my monthly car payment. Sarah was dressed up, wearing jewelry I'd never seen before. Jessica gave it to me, she whispered when I asked. Devin bought it for her, but she said the earrings didn't match her outfit, so she let me borrow the necklace. Hand-me-down jewelry from her sister's boyfriend. The whole dynamic made me sick. Dinner was a repeat of Friday night, but worse. Devin had apparently decided that since I hadn't pushed back much during the first round, he could escalate. So Marcus, he said, loud enough for the whole table to hear. I looked up salaries for the Attorney General's office. You're making what? $68K. Something like that. $68,000. He said it slowly, like he was explaining math to a child. I made that last week. 1 week. Chris whistled. 1 week. That's insane, man. That's smart investing, Devin corrected. That's understanding how money works. Must be nice, Sarah said, and there was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Bitterness. Resentment. Devin leaned forward, his expression the picture of concerned generosity. Look, Marcus, I'm going to be straight with you because I like you. You seem like a decent guy, but you're wasting your life. Excuse me. You're smart enough to be a lawyer, but you're working for the government. Making $68K, driving a Camry, living in a starter home. Meanwhile, guys like me were building empires. Not everyone measures success in dollars, I said quietly. That's what poor people say to feel better about being poor. He smiled, and several people at the table laughed, including Sarah. Again, I'm not poor. I'm middle class. There's a difference. Middle class. Devin rolled the words around like he was tasting wine. You know what middle class is? It's people who are too scared to be rich and too proud to admit they're struggling. Tom jumped in. He's got a point, Marcus. You're a smart guy. You could be making real money in private practice. I like public service. Public service. Devin laughed. Let me tell you what public service is. It's what people do when they can't compete in the real world. It's a participation trophy for careers. The table went quiet. Even Jessica looked uncomfortable. But Devin wasn't done. I mean, think about it. Sarah, you're a beautiful woman. Smart, sophisticated. And you're stuck shopping at Target because your husband won't step up. Sarah's face flushed. She didn't correct him. She didn't defend me. She just looked at her plate. Devin, maybe we should, Jessica started. No. I'm helping here. Devin turned back to me. Marcus, real talk. Man to man. Your wife deserves better than this. Your family deserves better. And deep down, you know it. That's why you're so defensive. I'm not defensive. You're not ambitious. There's a difference. He leaned back, supremely confident. Tell you what, tomorrow, come to my office. Bring whatever savings you've got. I'll put you in one of my funds. 12-month return, minimum 15%. That's guaranteed. I'll have you making 6 figures in passive income within 2 years. 15% guaranteed. The exact pitch he'd used on Dorothy Chun. That's generous, I said. But I'll pass. You'll pass. He looked around the table like I'd just said something insane. You hear this? Guy's drowning. I throw him a life preserver and he'll pass. Some life preservers have holes in them. The smile disappeared from Devin's face for just a second. His eyes went cold, calculating. Then the charm returned. Okay. I get it. You're proud. That's fine. But pride doesn't pay bills, Marcus. Pride doesn't give your wife the life she deserves. The dinner continued for another hour, but I was done engaging. I watched Devin work the table, watched my family hang on his every word, watched them look at me with something between pity and disappointment. When we finally left, Sarah was silent during the drive home. I knew what was coming. He was right about some things, she said as we pulled into our driveway. About what? About ambition. About wanting more. I turned off the engine. Sarah, we have a good life. Good. Not great. Never great. She turned to me, and her eyes were filled with something I'd never seen before. Doubt. Do you know what it's like watching my little sister date someone like Devin? Watching her get everything I wanted? You wanted me, I said quietly. 12 years ago, you said you wanted me. I did. I do. But I also wanted more. I want to not worry about money. I wanted to go on vacations without checking the bank account. I wanted to feel like we were building something. We have built something. We have a starter home and a 12-year-old Camry. She got out of the car. Maybe Devin's right. Maybe you're just too scared to want more. She went inside. I sat in my starter home driveway in my Camry that runs great and checked my email. One new message from Ellen. Grand jury approved, all counts. Arrest warrant signed. Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Tactical team executes search warrants. Game time. I looked at our house. Lights on in the bedroom where my wife was probably already asleep, disappointed in the life I'd given her. In approximately 34 hours, Devin Mitchell's world would detonate, and my family would finally understand the difference between success and fraud. Monday morning, 9 a.m. I stood in front of a grand jury in Travis County, presenting 6 months of investigation into the cleanest format possible. Follow the money. Ladies and gentlemen, I began pulling up the first slide. Devin Mitchell portrays himself as a successful investment manager. The reality is that he operates a textbook Ponzi scheme that has defrauded at least 23 elderly victims of approximately $8.7 million. I walked them through Dorothy Chen's case first. The promises, the fake statements, the vanishing money. Then I showed them the bank records. This is $340,000 entering Pinnacle's client trust account on May 15, 2023. Mrs. Chen's life savings. Now watch where it goes. The timeline traced the money's journey. $150,000 transferred to Devin's personal account within 48 hours. Another $75,000 paid out to earlier investors to maintain the illusion of returns. The remaining funds cycled through shell companies. None of this money was invested in legitimate securities. Zero. It was stolen on day one. I presented 14 similar cases. Same pattern. Same shell companies. Same lies. The grand jury deliberated for 37 minutes. They returned indictments on 23 counts of wire fraud, 23 counts of theft, 23 counts of securities fraud, and 1 count of running a continuing criminal enterprise. Maximum sentence, 180 years. Ellen shook my hand afterward. Clean work, Marcus. Really clean. What time tomorrow? 6 a.m. FBI's running point with local PD support. They'll hit his home, his office, and 3 storage units simultaneously. Everything by the book. I won't be there. She studied me for a moment. This personal now? It always was. But yes, after this weekend, it's personal. Fine. But you observe only. No interaction with the suspect. We can't give his lawyers any ammunition about bias or vendetta. I drove home around 2 p.m., mentally rehearsing how tomorrow would unfold. Federal agents would arrest Devin at his home. They'd seize his computers, his files, his phone. They'd freeze every bank account. Within hours, his clients would start calling, panicking. By evening, the news would break. My family would see it on TV. That's when I'd explained that I'd known all along. When I pulled into my driveway, Jessica's car was parked out front. Through the window, I could see her and Sarah at the kitchen table. I walked in to find them looking at brochures. "What's this?" I asked. Sarah looked up, her face flushed with excitement I hadn't seen in months. "Devin's taking us to Hawaii. All of us. 2 weeks, all expenses paid." My stomach dropped. "What?" Jessica bounced in her seat. "He's renting a villa in Maui. He said he wants to treat the whole family. Marcus, it's a $50,000 vacation. We can't accept that. Can't accept it. Sarah's excitement curdled into anger. Marcus, this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip. We barely know him. I know him, Jessica said defensively, and he's trying to do something nice. God, Marcus, why do you have to ruin everything? I'm not ruining anything. I'm just saying we need to be careful about accepting expensive gifts from people we've just met. Sarah stood up. You're jealous. That's what this is. You're jealous that Devin can afford things you can't. That's not. He's successful and generous, and you can't stand it. You want me to be stuck in this house forever, driving that piece of shit car, shopping at Target, while my sister lives the life I should have had. The words hung in the air like smoke. The life you should have had, I repeated quietly. Sarah's eyes were filled with tears, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry, frustrated. I'm 38 years old, Marcus. All my friends are taking vacations to Europe. They're driving new cars. They're living. And what am I doing? I'm clipping coupons and shopping sales because my husband is too proud to accept help from someone who's actually made something of himself. Devin hasn't made something of himself. Oh, really? His company's worth $50 million. His company's worth nothing. It's a fraud. Silence. Jessica stared at me. What did you just say? Devin Mitchell is running a Ponzi scheme. I've been investigating him for 6 months. Tomorrow morning, he's being arrested by federal agents. Sarah laughed. Actually laughed. Oh my God. Oh my God, you're insane. I'm not insane. I'm telling you the truth. You're jealous. She shouted at this time. You're so pathetically jealous that you've invented this conspiracy theory to make yourself feel better. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a federal investigation. I work for the Attorney General. This is literally my job. Jessica stood up, shaking. You need help, Marcus. Serious help. You can't handle that someone's more successful than you. So you've convinced yourself he's a criminal? He is a criminal. He's stolen $8.7 million from elderly investors. That's insane. Sarah was crying now. Do you hear yourself? You sound crazy. I have bank records, testimony, documentary evidence. Tomorrow morning, you're going to apologize. Sarah grabbed the Hawaii brochures off the table. You're going to apologize to Devin and to Jessica, and you're going to get your head checked because clearly you've lost your mind. They both stormed out. I stood in my kitchen, listening to Jessica's car peel out of the driveway, and realized I'd made a tactical error. I told them too early. Now, they'd warned Devin. I grabbed my phone and called Ellen. We've got a problem. Monday, 3:47 p.m. Ellen's voice was sharp. What do you mean they'll warn him? I told my wife and her sister about tomorrow's arrest. They think I'm lying out of jealousy. They're going to tell Devin. Silence on the other end. Then shit. Marcus, if he runs. He won't run. He's too arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. You better be right. If we lose him because of your personal drama, we won't lose him, but we need to move up the timeline. Can we go tonight? Tonight. Ellen's voice rose. It's 4 p.m. The tactical team needs time to coordinate. We've got multiple locations to hit simultaneously. Then we do just his house. Get him in custody. Secure his computers and phones tonight. Hit the office and storage units tomorrow. More silence. Then hold on. I heard muffled conversation in the background. 2 minutes later, Ellen came back. FBI says they can have a team ready by 8 p.m. But Marcus, you need to understand if this goes sideways, if there's any indication that this arrest was rushed because of your personal connection, his lawyers will have a field day. Document everything. Timestamp every decision. Make it clear that the decision to accelerate was tactical, based on risk of flight. Is there risk of flight? Subject was informed of investigation by family member. Risk of flight is now substantial. Ellen sighed. Okay, that works. 8 p.m. Devin Mitchell's residence. And Marcus? You're not going. You're too close to this now. Ellen, non-negotiable. You've done your job. Let the FBI do theirs. She hung up. I sat in my empty house, knowing she was right, but hating it anyway. 6 months of work, and I wouldn't be there for the arrest. My phone buzzed. Text from Sarah at Jessica's. Don't wait up. Then another. I told Devin what you said. He feels sorry for you. He thinks you're having a breakdown. Maybe you should talk to someone. I texted back. Watch the news tonight. Her response came immediately. You're sick. 5:30 p.m. I made a sandwich I didn't eat and turned on my laptop. The FBI will be prepping now. Team briefing, equipment check, tactical planning. Devin Mitchell was probably laughing about the crazy government worker who accused him of fraud. I pulled up the victim files. 23 people whose lives Devin had destroyed. Dorothy Chun, 81, now living with her daughter because she couldn't afford rent. Gerald Martinez, 76, who'd postponed cancer treatment because he couldn't access his money. Patricia O'Brien, 69, who'd attempted suicide after losing everything. These were the people Sarah couldn't see when she looked at Devin's Maserati. 6:15 p.m. My phone rang. Unknown number. Marcus Reeves. Mr. Reeves, this is Special Agent Kim Chun, FBI. I'm lead on the Mitchell operation tonight. Agent Chun, thank you for moving quickly. Your supervisor explained the situation. I need to confirm. What's the likelihood the subject has been warned? Hi. My wife and her sister were going to contact him this afternoon. And you believe he won't flee? He's a narcissist who thinks he's smarter than everyone. He won't believe we actually have a case. Let's hope you're right. We go at 8 p.m. sharp. 6 agents, 3 vehicles. No-knock warrant based on flight risk and potential evidence destruction. I wish I could be there. You've done your part, Mr. Reeves. Good investigation. Really solid work. 7:30 p.m. I showered and changed into fresh clothes, though I had nowhere to go. Nervous energy. I'd worked hundreds of cases, but this was different. This was family. At 7:45, I got in my Camry and drove toward Devin's address. I wouldn't go to the house, but I wanted to be close. Devin lived in Westlake Hills, one of Austin's wealthiest neighborhoods. His house was a modern monstrosity. Glass and steel, probably 6,000 square feet, on 3 acres overlooking the hill country. Purchased with stolen retirement money. I parked 3 blocks away and waited. 8 p.m. exactly. 3 black SUVs appeared, moving fast but quiet. They stopped in front of Devin's house. Agents poured out, body armor visible, weapons drawn. The front door exploded inward. Even from 3 blocks away, I heard the shouting, FBI, search warrant, get on the ground. Lights blazed on inside the house. Neighbors appeared on their lawns. Someone was filming on their phone. 5 minutes later, agents walked Devin out in handcuffs. He was wearing silk pajama bottoms and nothing else. No Rolex. No Tom Ford suit. Just an arrogant fraud in pajamas, being stuffed into an FBI vehicle. I watched until the SUVs drove away. Then I called Ellen. It's done, she said. In custody. Computers seized. Phone seized. He's at the federal building now. Processing. Did he say anything? Lots of things. Mostly about his lawyers and how we've made a huge mistake. The usual. Thank you, Ellen. Get some rest, Marcus. Tomorrow's going to be a media circus. I drove home. Still no message from Sarah. At 9 p.m., the local news interrupted regular programming. Breaking tonight, prominent Austin investment manager arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. I watched Devin's booking photo appear on screen. The smirk was gone. The news showed his house, the FBI vehicles, interviewed neighbors who described him as successful and generous. Then they cut to Dorothy Chun. He took everything, she said, crying on camera. 40 years of savings. Gone. My phone exploded. Text after text, but not from Sarah. From Tom. Did you know about this? From Chris. Holy shit, is this the same Devin? From my mother-in-law, Linda. Marcus, call me. Nothing from Sarah or Jessica. At 10:30 p.m., my front door opened. Sarah walked in, her face pale and blank. We stared at each other. You knew, she finally said. For 6 months. Why didn't you tell us? I tried to tell you. Today. You said I was having a breakdown. She collapsed onto the sofa. Jessica's devastated. She really loved him. He's a predator. He was using her to get access to the family. My guess is he would have tried to recruit your parents next. Sarah looked up at me with something I couldn't quite read. You knew all weekend. At dinner, when everyone was mocking me. Yeah, I knew. Tears started falling down her face. Real ones this time. I said terrible things to you. You did. I told you I wanted the life Jessica had. You did. Marcus, her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I sat down next to her, but not too close. Sarah, I need you to understand something. That man didn't make $50 million through hard work. He stole it from elderly people, from grandmothers and grandfathers who trusted him with their life savings. How much? $8.7 million that we can trace. Probably more. She covered her face with her hands. And I told you he deserved respect. I laughed when he insulted you. I said you were jealous. You wanted to believe in the fantasy. That's what con artists do. They sell fantasies. He offered to take us to Hawaii with stolen money. Jesus. She looked at me. You sat there at dinner, let him humiliate you, and you knew the whole time. I couldn't show my hand. The investigation had to stay sealed until the arrest. But why didn't you at least tell me? Privately, that was the question, wasn't it? Because I needed to know. Know what? If my wife still believed in me. Or if she'd fallen in love with the idea of being someone else. The silence that followed was heavy. Sarah stood up, walked to the window, stared out at our modest street with our modest houses. I don't know who I am anymore, she whispered. Watching Jessica with him, seeing that life, I wanted it so badly. I forgot what I already had. What do you have? She turned back to me. An honest man. A good man. A man who spent 6 months building a case to protect people he's never even met. Mrs. Chun lost $340,000. She's 81 years old. She'll never recover that money. And you're fighting for her. It's my job. No. Sarah came back to the sofa. It's who you are. And I forgot that. I forgot that being good matters more than being rich. My phone buzzed. Text from Ellen. Devin Mitchell officially charged. Bail set at $5 million. He can't make it. Staying in custody. Press conference tomorrow, 10 a.m. I showed Sarah the message. What happens now, she asked. Now we recover as many assets as we can. We trace every transaction. We find other victims. And we put them in prison for a very long time. Will the victims get their money back? Some of it. Maybe. If we can claw back assets before they're all spent. Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat like that for a long time. At midnight, my phone rang. Jessica. I put it on speaker. Marcus, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Jessica. He used me. He was using all of us. The FBI agent told me he has a pattern. He finds women with families who have money. He was going to ask Dad to invest. Sarah closed her eyes. Oh God. Mom and Dad have their retirement savings. If you hadn't been investigating. It's okay, Jessica. No, it's not. I brought him into our family. I brought a criminal into our home. You didn't know? He's a professional. This is what he does. She cried harder. Everyone's calling me. The news people. They want to interview the girlfriend. They want to know if I was part of it. You weren't. The FBI knows that. I made sure they know that. You did. Of course. Your family. More crying. I said awful things to you. At dinner. In your kitchen. I told you that you were crazy. Jessica, listen to me. He's very good at what he does. He fooled 23 people before you. Smart people. Careful people. You're not stupid. You're a victim. Sarah took the phone. Jess, come stay with us tonight. You shouldn't be alone. Are you sure? You're my sister. Come home. An hour later, Jessica arrived with a suitcase, her eyes swollen from crying. Sarah made tea while Jessica sat at our kitchen table, the same table where Devin had insulted me 48 hours earlier. He told me he loved me, Jessica said. He said I was different from other women he'd dated. I'm sure he did, I replied gently. That's part of the con. How long were you investigating him? 6 months. And you never said anything. I couldn't. Active investigations are confidential. If word had leaked, he might have fled or destroyed evidence. So you just sat there at dinner while he mocked me. Yes. Jessica started crying again. You must hate me. I don't hate you. I hate him. But I brought him here. I put Sarah through this. I made your family life hell. Sarah sat down next to her sister. Jess, Marcus has been telling me for years that I'm too obsessed with what other people have. I didn't listen. That's not your fault. I just wanted to be with someone successful. someone who had his life together. He didn't have his life together, I said. He had other people's money. There's a difference. The three of us stayed up until 3 a.m. talking through everything. Jessica told us about the early dates, the romantic gestures, the promises. Classic love bombing followed by gradual isolation. He always had criticisms, she said, about my friends, my job, my family. He'd say it was because he cared, because he wanted me to be better. Manipulation, I said. Breaking down your support system so you depend on him. I almost quit my job. He said I didn't need to work, that he'd take care of me. Sarah squeezed her hand. But you didn't quit. Something told me not to. Some little voice that said, keep your independence. That was your instinct protecting you, I said. Trust that voice from now on. Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. I stood in the back of the press conference room while Ellen fielded questions from a dozen reporters. Devin Mitchell has been charged with 23 counts of wire fraud, 23 counts of theft, 23 counts of securities fraud, and 1 count of operating a continuing criminal enterprise. We believe there may be additional victims. A reporter raised her hand. How much money was stolen? Approximately $8.7 million that we can trace. The investigation is ongoing. Will victims be compensated? We're working with federal authorities to freeze and recover assets. There will be a restitution process. Another reporter. How long has this been going on? At least 2 years. Possibly longer. How was he caught? Ellen glanced back at me, a small smile. Excellent investigative work by the Texas Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. Specifically, Attorney Marcus Reeves, who spent 6 months building this case. Cameras turned toward me. I stayed in the back, uncomfortable with the attention. After the press conference, Ellen pulled me aside. You okay? Fine. Just glad it's done. It's not done. We've got months of trial prep ahead. I know. But the arrest? That part's done. You did good work, Marcus. Really good work. When I got home at noon, my house was full of people. Tom and Linda had come over. Chris was there. Even Sarah's Aunt Margaret had driven in from Houston. They all looked at me differently now. Marcus, Tom said, standing to shake my hand. I owe you an apology. You don't. I do. At dinner, I laughed when he mocked you. I let him insult you in your own home. Tom, he was conning everyone. But you saw through it. And we didn't. Linda stepped forward, hugging me. You protected this family. If he got into our retirement money. He didn't. That's what matters. Chris clapped me on the shoulder. Dude, you're like a secret superhero. You just sat there taking his crap while knowing you were about to take him down. It wasn't about taking him down. It was about justice for his victims. Still badass. Over the next few days, the story exploded. National news picked it up. Devin Mitchell's mugshot was everywhere. More victims came forward. The FBI discovered he'd run similar schemes in 2 other states under different names. Sarah and I started marriage counseling. Turned out, we had a lot to work through beyond the Devin situation. The resentment had been building for years. We'd both been avoiding hard conversations. I convinced myself that money would solve everything, Sarah admitted during our 3rd session. I thought if we just had more, I'd be happy. And now, our counselor asked. Now I'm embarrassed. We have a good life. I just couldn't see it. I took her hand. I could have communicated better too. I've been so focused on work that I stopped paying attention to us. You were busy putting criminals in prison. That doesn't mean I couldn't make time for date nights. We both smiled. It was the first real smile between us in weeks. Jessica went back to work, but she started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma from manipulative relationships. He really messed with my head, she told us over dinner one night. I keep wondering what was real and what was performance. Probably all performance, I said. People like Devin don't form real attachments. Everyone's just a mark. How do you do this job? She asked. Seeing the worst of people every day, I also see the best. People like Dorothy Chun, who called to thank me even though they lost everything. People who still believe in justice despite being hurt. 3 months later, Devin Mitchell's trial began. I testified for 2 days, walking the jury through every bank record, every falsified statement, every lie. Devin's defense attorney tried the expected angles. Isn't it true, Mr. Reeves, that the defendant was dating your sister-in-law? Yes. And isn't it true that you harbored resentment toward him? I harbored concern for potential victims. But he insulted you at a family dinner, didn't he? He did, and you were angry about that. I was concerned that someone displaying such predatory behavior was gaining access to my family. Predatory behavior? Or just confidence that made you uncomfortable? I looked directly at the jury. Sir, Mr. Mitchell's confidence cost 23 elderly people their life savings. Dorothy Chun is 81 years old and now lives with her daughter because she can't afford rent. Gerald Martinez delayed cancer treatment because he couldn't access his money. Patricia O'Brien attempted suicide. That's not confidence. That's predatory behavior. The defense attorney moved on quickly. Dorothy Chun testified. So did Gerald Martinez. So did Patricia O'Brien, who walked slowly to the stand with a cane, still recovering from her suicide attempt. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge looked at Devin with open contempt. Mr. Mitchell, you preyed upon the elderly and vulnerable. You stole their security, their dignity, and in some cases, their will to live. You showed no remorse, no empathy, no recognition of the harm you caused. Devin stared straight ahead, expressionless. I hereby sentence you to 45 years in federal prison, to be followed by 20 years of supervised release. You will pay restitution of $8.7 million plus interest. You are prohibited from ever working in investment management or financial services. 45 years. Devin was 32. He'd be 77 when released. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave a brief statement. Justice was served today for 23 victims who trusted the wrong person. We hope this case serves as a warning. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. That evening, Sarah and I had dinner at our kitchen table. Just us. Pot roast, because I'd learned to make it almost as well as she did. 45 years, she said. That's basically a life sentence. He earned it. I still can't believe I fell for his act. Sarah, he was good at it. That's why he got away with it for so long. But you saw through it immediately. I had training and access to records. If I just met him socially, I might have been impressed too. She looked at me across our modest table in our modest house. I'm glad you're you. Yeah. A good man beats a rich man every time, even if the good man drives a Camry. She laughed. Even then, 6 months after the trial, I got a letter from Dorothy Chun. Dear Mr. Reeves, I wanted you to know that I received my first restitution payment. It's not everything I lost, but it's enough that I can get my own apartment again. I don't have to burden my daughter anymore. More importantly, I wanted to thank you for believing me. When I first called your office, I felt so foolish. I kept thinking I should have known better. But you never made me feel stupid. You made me feel heard. My husband used to say that character is what you do when no one's watching. You have character, Mr. Reeves. You fought for people you'd never met, with no glory and little thanks. That's what heroes do. God bless you and your family. Sincerely, Dorothy Chun. I kept that letter in my desk at work. On hard days when I was buried in paperwork and bureaucracy, I'd read it and remember why this job mattered. Sarah started a blog about financial literacy and avoiding scams. It became surprisingly popular. Turns out, lots of people have been burned by schemes similar to Devin's. Jessica started dating again, but slower this time, more carefully. I'm done being impressed by cars and watches, she told us. I want someone who's kind. Kind is good, Sarah agreed. Kind beats flashy. My relationship with Tom improved significantly. He called me monthly now just to talk. I learned something from all this, he told me during one call. I spent too many years measuring success in dollars. Missed what really mattered. What's that? Family. Integrity. Knowing you're making a difference. Never too late to figure that out. You're a good son-in-law, Marcus. I should have said that years ago. Chris asked me to recommend him for a position with the Attorney General's office. After watching what you did, I want to do something that matters, he explained. Investment banking sounds impressive, but who am I actually helping? You take a massive pay cut, I warned. I know, but I'd be able to look at myself in the mirror. He started in the Consumer Protection Division 3 months later. I trained him myself. 1 year after Devin's arrest, Sarah and I renewed our vows in our backyard. Nothing fancy, Just family and close friends, burgers on the grill, and promises to never forget what really mattered. I promised to measure our success by happiness, not dollars, Sarah said, tears in her eyes. I promised to make time for us, even when work gets crazy, I replied. Tom gave a toast to Marcus, who showed us all that real wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in your character. Everyone raised their glasses to my 2015 Camry parked in the driveway. That car's a legend now, Chris joked. The Camry that survived Devin Mitchell. It runs great, I said, and everyone laughed. That night, after everyone left, Sarah and I sat on our back porch. You know what I realized? She said. What's that? We have exactly the life I wanted. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy looking at what other people had. Took a criminal investigation to figure that out. I'm a slow learner. She leaned against me, but I got there eventually. I thought about Devin, sitting in a federal prison, probably still convinced he was smarter than everyone else. I thought about Dorothy Chun, finally back in her own apartment. I thought about the 22 other victims who'd received some measure of justice. And I thought about my family, gathered in my backyard, celebrating something that couldn't be bought or stolen. Genuine connection. You know what's funny? I said, what? Devin was right about one thing. What's that? I do lack ambition. I never wanted to be rich. I never wanted a Maserati or a mansion. I just wanted to do good work, come home to someone I love, and know that I made a difference. Sarah kissed me. That's not lack of ambition. That's having the right priorities. Same thing to guys like Devin. Guys like Devin die alone in prison. Guys like you die surrounded by people who actually love them. We sat in comfortable silence, listening to crickets and distant traffic. My phone buzzed. Email from Ellen. New case just came in. Suspected elder fraud, similar pattern to Mitchell. Interested, I looked at Sarah. Work email. New case. Go get him, superhero. I replied to Ellen. Send me the file. I'll start tomorrow. Because that's what I do. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. I don't drive a Maserati or wear a Rolex. But I'm the guy who shows up when predators target the vulnerable. I'm the guy who builds the case, brick by brick, until justice is served. I'm the guy Devin Mitchell underestimated. And I'll be the guy the next Devin Mitchell underestimates too. Because some of us measure success differently. Some of us know that the real poverty isn't in your bank account. It's in your character. Standing in my office at the Attorney General's building, I reviewed the stats on my wall. Since Devin Mitchell's case, our division had taken down 4 more major fraud operations. Total recovered, $23 million. Victims helped, 187. My starter home was still my home. My Camry now had 180,000 miles and ran better than ever. Sarah's financial literacy blog had grown into a full nonprofit organization. She spoke at senior centers across Texas, teaching people how to spot scams. I learned from the best con artist around, she'd say, and from the best fraud investigator. Jessica had married a high school teacher named Mike. He drives a Honda, she told us proudly, and he's the kindest person I've ever met. Tom and Linda downsized to a smaller house and started volunteering with our nonprofit. Turns out we didn't need all that space, Tom said, or all that stuff. Chris was now my partner at work. Together, we'd built the most effective consumer fraud unit in the state. And Devin Mitchell? Still in federal prison. He'd be eligible for parole in 2048. My phone rang. Unknown number. Marcus Reeves. Mr. Reeves, my name is Patricia Williams. I'm 73 years old, and I think I've been scammed. I grab a notepad. Tell me everything, Mrs. Williams. Start from the beginning, because that's what I do. That's who I am, and I wouldn't change a thing. If this story resonated with you, remember, real success isn't measured in car brands or watch prices. It's measured in lives improved, promises kept, and justice served. My 2015 Camry might not turn heads, but it's carried me to every courthouse, every victim interview, every moment that mattered. Comment below, what's your definition of success? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about everyday people doing extraordinary things. Because sometimes the guy getting mocked at dinner is the same guy who'll save your grandmother from financial ruin. And that's a kind of success money can't buy.